Hello again, everybody. This is Steve, coming back to you with more on writing. This one's kind of a update slash writing tutorial because I think the two of them will play together perfectly into this. So I wanted to show this to you guys so that you had a better idea of, part of how I think as a writer, and also these are good ideas for you if you're ever a writer or you ever get into writing, or you already are an established writer and you want to improve your writing and so on and so forth. Anyways, this first image here, if you're wondering what this is a demonstration of one of the unique classes of ships I mentioned in Earthfleet. This right here is one of the ships I was talking about, the cannon ship. It's one of those unique ships that has a specific purpose in a fight that can't be fulfilled by other ships. It's a flying gun. That's its whole purpose. It's just one gigantic flying gun. Think of like to use a different reference to use a reference from a different universe. Look at Star Wars and the Death Star. That was a gigantic space station wrapped around a main gun. That whole, that thing was kind of like a A10 in jumbo scale, where it was just the whole station wrapped around that one gun. That was its whole purpose in life, was that big gun that was out there to blow stuff up. Well, cannon ship's kind of the same thing. It's smaller. You're not going to go in and kill planets, but boy, you can wipe out a whole lot of stuff with it. And it's usually like with this here, it's supported by a lot of other ships because it's a very weak ship as far as defense goes. So they're easy to kill, but boy, can they knock some stuff out if you shoot at them. And if the target's small enough, you could blow it up completely because they got a butt ton of firepower. But like I say, they're also very weak and vulnerable ships, so you've got to have them well shielded, well covered. This ship is only mentioned once in the Earthfleet series during the events of First Dawn, but it is, like I say, it's a fringe class of ship, but it's still an important one, and I wanted to show you roughly what that looked like. This is another one. I was digging through my images, and I found this. This goes back to the size of the wolves I was talking about in the Off-Road Chronicles with the Ratnar wolves. Now, if you're thinking, well, how big is this wolf? That's a grown tree, if that gives you any idea. If you remember the example I had before of this dude being literally the size of a riding horse or bigger, that's your boy right there. That's him. That's a Ratnar wolf. I call them a dire wolf at times because that's a lot of what they are. Is they're a dire wolf? Which, if you're a fantasy reader, you know what a dire wolf is. It's these big frickin' wolves. I'm talking, horse-sized wolves. Some of them the size of Clydesdales or bigger. There's been even some authors who have created wolves so big that these dudes can go toe-to-toe with a dragon. That's how big they are. Mine aren't quite that big. Mine are more reasonable sizes. You can slap a saddle on them and go riding on a wolf, which I think would actually be really, really cool. I used to be over there like completely nerding out, like, I'm getting to ride a wolf. This is awesome. Which, honestly, given the way the wolves are built, probably would not be as awesome a ride as what it sounds like. Because, a horse, if you look at a horse is structured for riding. When they're riding, you're going to get bounced up and down a little bit. That's not bad. You watch a wolf when they're running, oh yeah, you're just going to be like, you're going to feel like a human yo-yo in that seat. I mean, you're basically going to have a seatbelt to try not to get thrown out of there while that wolf's running. But anyways, okay, now we're on to the actual writing parts. And I bring this one up because I wanted to and through this video, to kind of do some practicals when it comes to writing. This right here would go into the assembly of a scene. And assembly of a scene is still world building. You're not building the bigger world, the huge world that this thing lives in. But it's still important. Taking this one apart, let's go in here and look at what the elements are in this picture. You've got a little dragon here looking over the shoulder of this little girl. Based on this picture, the girl is the center. She's the MC. She's the one that everything revolves around. So think of it like a solar system. You're going to have her. She's the center of it. She's driving the story. Question 1. What is she reading? It's got a nice fancy cover. What I would do is I would talk about the color, talk about the design of the cover. Doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, you can talk about it in detail. It depends on how important it is in the story. The amount of minutes and the amount of paragraphs you give to an object usually determines how, well, one, it determines how important it is to the story. Not always, but quite often it does. Because if an object does not have a high level of importance to the story, you do not and should not, you do not have to and should not give it a lot of screen time, so to speak. Mention it, maybe give it some color, something to kind of liven up the world and build the picture in the reader's mind. But, if it's not something that's super important to the story, don't give it a lot of time. If it's super important to the story, go into detail on it. And how much detail you go into is up to you. Don't info dump. Whatever you do, don't info dump. Give them just enough to build the picture and then move on. Now, looking at this here, you've got 2 other books in here. What are they? One of them looks like it's a tome. Okay, if it's a tome, what is it? Is it a spell tome? Is it a historical tome? What is its purpose? If you look over here, you've got other books, which then brings these guys in here. Are they book gnomes? Are they just happen to be regular gnomes and they're just regular gnomes and they just happen to be on top of her bag of books? These books also tell you something about the character because she's got one in her hand. That's fine. You could say that's a normal kid just reading. Okay, well, we got 2 extras here. We got this bag here. We got a bookshelf behind it. We've got all these books on the floor. Start to see how this picture comes together? Whoever she is, she likes books, and you need to tell that. Take a look at her clothing. She has a simple yellow sweat top. I wouldn't say that, well, you could say it's a t-shirt because it's short-sleeved. But it looks to be a heavier shirt, so it's going to be a somewhat cooler climate. If it's like Florida, that's going to be thin cotton. Usually something very bright color, which this is yellow, but that could just be her preference. Maybe her favorite color is yellow. She's wearing blue jeans, so she's maybe not a traditional girl. She's more a tom girl. She has white socks and white sneakers. You could say a lot of things about the white sneakers. White sneakers, that may be her preference. That may be something where the place she lives, that's an important item. Different things like that. Down here, you've got the wizard. Who is he? Is he a figurine, or is he a real wizard? If he's that small, why is he that small and she's that big? You got to consider scales here. Is he kind of like the gnomes where he's a special character, but he's also a wizard? He's not a full human wizard. Maybe he's a different type of gnome, one of the larger gnomes. Maybe these are magical butterflies. Maybe there's something he's casting. If you look up here, you've got this tree limb. That's not normal in a house. If it's a house filled with magic, which would probably make these magic tomes, which would also explain the dragon and the gnomes. Tomes and gnomes, hey. Then you've got the owl, you've got the pixie. You've got, this nature scene outside. This could be her mother. This could be an ent. This could be, a number of things. Maybe she is, she's living in a magical world. Maybe she is a mage herself. Maybe, she's just the daughter of a mage. There's a lot you can draw from this. And this, you may have this kind of example image when you start out a story. If you don't, this is the kind of scene you need to tell. This is what you need to describe when you're world building. And that's why I was walking you through all those different questions and having you look at the different things in here. is it's a lot of world building. It's how do you describe this scene you're seeing? How much detail do you tell? And how much do you lean on the reader to figure this out? You know, maybe you go in here on the gnomes you describe, they have the red pointy hats like a typical gnome and white beards, and they have green shirts and brown knee pants and long socks and so forth like that. You know, it's how much needs to be told and how much do you want to be tell, or how much do you want to tell? You know, how important are each of these items in the story? The books back here, are they all magical books? Are they spell books? Are they historical books? Is it a combination of them? So, you know, and I'm going in here and picking this apart because it's a question of how much of this do you need to tell? Do you need to tell all of it? If you do, this is what you need to cover on each of these items. If you don't need to tell them, pick and choose what you think is important to the story. Like, is this dragon a pet? Is this a, you know, wise advisor, etc. like that. So, on to the next image. Now, this one, I'd pick this rather than like a normal human knight or warrior like that, because now you've got a bit of a challenge when you're describing this character. So, okay, now if you go through your 6 questions, who is this? What is he wearing? Like, he's got these odd earrings and stuff. He's got this weird head ornament. He's a mouse, or is he a rat? And if he's neither, because you look at his feet, maybe he's rat-like, but he's a different species. Because you look at his tail. A normal rat and a mouse, their tail is kind of naked. This guy's got a furry tail with what looks like spikes on it. He's wearing these ornaments that connect to a ring on his finger. He has 2 rings over here. He has a 5-fingered hand with opposable thumb. His sword is short. It's more like an exaggerated dagger. He has this unusual breastplate. Is it metal? Is it leather? Is it cloth? Is it decorative, or does it actually protect him? What is the purpose of this gown? The various layers of it. What is it with the aiguillettes here? What, you know, or the symbology on the front? So, you know, and he's got, if you look here, he's also got the ankle bracelets. Why are they there? Are they like what, you know, if you look in antiquity, you saw some guys, especially with like the really big muscles, they would wear the arm bracelets, but they would usually go over the bicep, and the reason it was there was to keep the bicep muscle from overextending itself and exploding. They actually had a problem with that, where some of the guys were so strong and they would so overflex that muscle would expand to the point it just popped like a zit. And those arm bracelets were there to restrain that muscle to allow it to continue to function without overextending itself and causing a sprain, causing a debilitating rupture, etc. like that. So it was a safety mechanism. It wasn't there for looks. It was an actual thing to keep the arm from injuring itself when it shouldn't. So, you know, that's a question. Do they need that down there, or is that just decorative? Go on to the next example. Okay, now here, this one, the room is simple, but now you're designing the scene. This one is going to play into a lot of emotions. What is this character represent? What is he doing? He's sitting down playing music. What is the music? Why is it touching him? He's crying. You know, is it bringing out a memory? Is it a moving piece of music? What is it? What emotions is he feeling? You know, now you're not describing the room so much as you're getting into his mind and going behind his eyes, and what is he seeing? What is he feeling? Why is he playing this? Is it because his girlfriend died? His wife died? He's just created a masterpiece and it's really moving. There's a lot of stuff like that you have to think about. But this is more, this is where you start getting into the more difficult stuff, where you start getting into the emotions and the thoughts and how is this moving him? Or is it moving him? Or why is he crying? Is this therapy for him going through a big loss in his life, etc. like that? It's another way of describing things and going through your 6 questions to describe a scene like this. And if you describe it correctly, this simple room, this simple scene can become extremely powerful but you got to play it carefully. You don't want to overplay it and get too carried away, but you also don't want to underplay it because then you underwhelm the reader and they're just, yeah, whatever. So you got to kind of find that nice balance where you get them sucked into the moment, where they're just sucked into this world. They're living in this world. They just unplug from reality and go into this world, and now they're sitting there in his, behind his eyes, playing the piano, listening to the music. You can be, they can be the observer that's standing to the side with this viewpoint. You can, they can be the person who is playing the music. I've seen them where they've actually been the piano. I've actually seen that in the book. I've been the piano. They've been this spirit of music. It just depends on what works best. So, now here's another interesting one. This one actually is drawn from a book I'm working on called The Dragons of Mason Street. In this one, it's full of dragons, but they're not traditional dragons. This goes into kind of get outside of your comfort zone, get outside of the cliche. This dragon here, which this is one of the example images I've used for that dragon. This is a seaweed dragon. This is a dragon made of seaweed. This is, taking a cliche, which is basically this is a Chinese dragon, and remaking them, where it's made entirely of seaweed. You can ask a lot of questions like, why are these seashells? What is important? Is that their scales, or is that just something they pick up as ornamentation? What is the dragon made of? In this case, it's seaweed. How does that seaweed work? Is it just the seaweed grows on the body, or the body is the seaweed? Are they a magical creature? Are they a living creature? How intelligent are they? What is the dragon's relationship to the little girl? Do they need to be near the water all the time? Are they restricted to, like only a few hours on land so they don't dry out? Or can they go anywhere they want to? Can they fly? Do they just swim? Just, again, it goes back to asking questions. And it's, world building. Like, you look back here at these clouds, you might not think much of it, but you've got seabirds, you've got the clouds, you've got the wind, you've got the waves. Is her sitting on there, like, is her butt getting wet? That, you might think, well, that's a weird question to ask. No. I mean, if you're thinking of this in, like, if you actually walked up to this and this was your daughter, what's one of your first thoughts going to be? Hey, stop sitting on that dragon, you're getting your dress wet. And it would be like describing a character who walks out and they have one of those little plastic lawn chairs and it's just rained and they sit down in it, and, man, my clothes are all wet now. It's things like that you got to think about. And now, if you want to get deeper into this, say like, this isn't just an incidental character or minor character, especially like if it's in a kid's book, you don't want to go into this. If it's in an adult's book, someone that you can get away with this kind of stuff, maybe ask, maybe you don't have to talk about it in the book, but maybe in your own notes, how do they procreate? Is it like what seaweed does, where it's, I think seaweed uses a type of pollen. It's an underwater thing. It's a type of pollen, I think, that goes and floats around the water, and it, just like it would with regular dry pollen on the land. Do they pollinate each other? Do they lay eggs? Do they lay seeds? Like, since it's a seaweed dragon, what's to say it doesn't lay seeds? And that's its quote-unquote eggs. And these seeds germinate into seaweed and kelp and stuff like that, and then that eventually grows up and becomes these. And the seaweed is the larva of these dragons. Just, things to think about. Now, here's another scene right here. This one, I will just kind of let you look at it. Look at it, kind of contemplate it, and ask yourself, take a few minutes, you can pause this video, and look through this scene. What are the important elements? What is relevant here? What is a side item? Things like this up here, the antlers, the snow, and the fire, and the candles, the food, the Viking shield, stuff like that. Go ahead and pause this and Look through this. See what you see. Think about it. And see if you can build a world picture with the from or a word picture from this scene. Okay, welcome back. If you did pause, now let's go over this image here. You've got a mug. Question is it iron? Is it pewter? Is it wood? What is it filled with? What are they drinking? What is this here? Is this a diary? Is this a tome? Is this a history book? Is it an accounting ledger? Now that's something you got to think about, because what if this person here has an accounting ledger for some of the things that they do? Wooden chair. Is this hand hewn? Is somebody did somebody buy it? Does it have a cushion? Personally, when I look at it, I don't see a cushion. I just see a nice little wear spot where somebody's butt's been running back and forth. So it's might be a hard wooden chair. Same thing with this one. There's looks like a log in between it that's been cut down and sawn off and turned into a table. You've got a hand-laid masonry fireplace with a masonry chimney. You've got a few lights up here, some decorative items, old pipe, smoking pipe. You got the Viking shield. Was that a trophy? Was that theirs? What is in this pot over here? Oops, sorry. What is in this pot over here? What is this here? Is this just part of the edifice, or is it something else? You see here, the lentil is, or lentil. Not the lentil. I can't think of what that's called, but the top of the fireplace, that's wood. Okay, normally those are stone. Why is this wood? Or is that just like this up here, it's carved in such a way that it looks like wood when in the low light? You got the food over here. What did they have for dinner? What type of table is this? Do they, there's no chair here, so do they take these and pull them up to the table when they're eating? Is there a different chair that they bring up that's lighter and easier to move? Because that right there, you're just gonna strain something moving that thing. But you got the light here. You've got a couple of beverage bottles. What's in them? Is it ale? Is it wine? Is it water? Hopefully not water, because that's kind of dirty water. You got the side of the house here. Is it wood? It looks like it's wood, because you look over here and you've got what looks like the elements of a log cabin with some some things here. These to me appear not to be structural. They look to be like a facade. So basically, you got the regular cabin that comes up to this here, or the cabin logs, which look to be square cut. Square cut and jointed, because I'm not seeing any daubing in between them or any chinking. So to me, they look like they're square cut, and they're cut in such a way that they don't need that. They're so well fit together that they seal themselves. The window, that is a simple pane glass window. Looks like it swings open. No shutters that I can see, but you have to be on the outside, because they might just have the shutters open just to let the light in. Because if it's got regular weather shutters, which are usually going to be like solid wood shutters for like when you have really severe weather, you can swing these open, slam those shut, and they protect your window. Which would mean these don't swing out; these would swing in. Because if you got a swinging shutter on the outside, these are not going to swing out as well. These are going to have to be hinged to swing in. So something to think of. He's got looks like a piece of a dead tree here, or tree limb. You've got stuff up here on the bookshelf. What what are they? Are they, there's more books, there's flasks, there's kegs, there's, like I said, you got the horns, so maybe he's a hunter, maybe he's a Viking. It's just, like I said, all the different things you got to think about when you're describing these scenes. Okay, this is a tavern. I actually borrowed this as a screenshot from a game. We're at almost 25 minutes, so I'm going to cut this off, because I'm trying to keep these shorter for you guys. And sorry for making you sit here and listen to me all this time. But we will pick this up on the next video and go through more of this, because this is, you know, more of your world building. And I like I say, I grabbed this back a while ago because I thought I was going to need it for one of my scenes to describe the scene. I ended up not needing it, but I keep it around anyways because it's a good way to help with visual, you know, visually walking myself through like a tavern, if I ever have to do a tavern, and describe the inside and how it looks and stuff. So we'll cover that on the next one. So keep your eyes out for the next video.